Hey guys, this is Josh from Grapplezilla, and today I am lucky to have an amazing guest, a true in- intellectual and an amazing grappler himself. Uh, his name is Emanuele Papa. So when most people think of grappling, they think that it starts and ends at BJJ and Olympic wrestling. Now, our guest today is here to prove otherwise. Emanuele Papa is a specialist in the powerhouse styles of the East, from the brutal trips of Mongolian Bokh to the devastating takedowns of Ssireum, to the lightning fast entries of Chinese Shuai Jiao and more. He's an anthropologist who actually gets on the mat and is a living bridge between the history books and the mats. Today, he's pulling back the curtain on some of the most effective grappling traditions you probably have never seen. Emanuele, great to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Great. So, Emanuele, we're going to dive in straight here, and we're going to start with the cultural and historical deep dive. Now,
Okay.
You have a background in anthropology. How does a culture's environment, like the Mongolian grasslands versus Chinese urban centers, shape the specific mechanics of its wrestling style?
Okay, I mean, this is a great question because I'm gonna open it up a little more
Mhm.
because a lot of people ask me a lot of the times what traditional wrestling is, and I always tell them it's a form of first of all, it's entertaining, an entertainment for a public. Okay, besides being like a sort of training for your body or preparing for war or whatever, but it is as like a spectacle. Okay, so you need to imagine wrestling or grappling as being influenced by two key factors. One is culture, and the second one is environment, so weather and where you are. Everything that is, let's say, in a colder climate, so from Mongolian wrestling or all the wrestling styles that developed, let's say, outside, judo is a little bit apart, another thing. It's a little bit different because it's more modern. So they are wrestling styles that are standing styles, which means that the two opponents are only allowed to touch the ground with their feet. And this is for many reasons. It can be because of the way the ground is shaped. It can be grasslands. It can be rock. There could be rocks. And it can be because it's the climate is cold. So you're most likely wearing clothes, and that's also the reason why the grappling does not go on the ground. Because with normal clothes and not with like gis or Japanese style of like clothing, very thick cotton, you can't really do that many things on the ground with very thick clothes. Let's imagine that you have a winter, you're wearing working clothes. It's very hard to do things with them on the floor. So I would say the environment, the culture shapes a ton the way your wrestling is. And if you go, I make two examples normally. I make the examples of Mongolia, where it's very cold, or Central Asia, where it's still very cold. And what do? You wear clothes and you have a belt. So a lot of the styles there are like dressed up styles. So you have clothes and you have a belt. And all the Central Asia, you have these from Kurosh or Goresh, or Kurash. You always have a jacket or a belt. And you go let's say south. You go to India, where you have Palvani, and then you have all the wrestlings on the ground. And then you go to Turkey, where it's like still hotter, and you have oil wrestling and or other kind of like traditional wrestlings that you can find along the way. So yes, culture and environment shapes a lot. With Chinese Shuai Jiao and Mongolian Bokh, it's a tricky question because, well, to me, it's pretty clear nowadays as we researched, me with my friend Lavelle, and all the work that I did to try to, bring out this lost history. And also another friend of mine, I want to shout out to Byron Jacobs with his podcast, Mushin podcast, and with channel. So Chinese wrestling comes from a specific branch of Mongolian style wrestling. We need to imagine it as, so when we think about these kind of traditional wrestling, we should not think about them as a very like coherent or singular style. We need to think about them as ways that specific, let's say, groups of people of certain cultures interacted with each other. So uh, an example could be in Mongolian wrestling back in the days, you might have different types of jackets, not just one. Um, so saying that, uh, just even just saying Mongolian wrestling is not enough most of the times. So to go back to your questions, I would say the development was Mongolian wrestling existed in the northern part of what we today call China. And the Qing court, which was the last dynasty that reigned in China, had a specific battalion of people that were doing wrestling. And the reason this battalion was there, it's complicated. Might be complicated, might be easy. Depends on the angle you come to the understanding of it. But let's say the dynasty was aware that they were Manchu, so they were well aware of their ethnic composition, which is in a way similar to the Mongolian one. They're like closely related. And if you want to keep relations with the Mongols, you have to wrestle. And you need to do a few things. And then there it comes. This battalion was established to have good wrestlers, as the battalion's name was.
Shanpuying?
Is Shampuying, or in Manchu's Buku Kifu Kwaran. Kwaran is a
Wow,
place,
cool.
Buku, where you have wrestlers or you have wrestling. Kifu means that which is good. So a place for good wrestlers. And it was established with within the eight banners, which is the military organization of the Manchus, and they learned and they developed their style thanks to the Mongolians. So today's Shuai Jiao comes from there. So that's where you have the key, the link.
So, because there's often a Han-centric narrative around Chinese martial arts, okay?
Yes.
Now, based upon your work, I mean, how much of Shuai Jiao is actually a product of Mongol Manchu and Manchu influence? Like, what would you say the percentage is? Because that's an interesting thing you just said.
It's complicated. Giving you a percentage, it's I don't know, but I would say this: anything that you do in modern Shuai Jiao that touches a jacket comes from there.
Okay, that is
Okay.
pretty cool. So, in a way, then Manchu Baku, which is imperial wrestling, for those who don't know, transformed from a battle skill into the sport of Shuai Jiao, what we see today. You're saying,
Yeah.
okay, so that's actually quite eye opening. Now, was there a specific role of the Shan Pu Ying? For people who don't know, that's the experts in wrestling unit.
Mm-hmm.
In the Qing dynasty, were they athletes, bodyguards, or both? Or
So it's interesting. So first of all, most of the people think of the Shampuyin as only wrestlers, which is not true. They would have inside the Shampuyin there were wrestlers, and there was also people that could ride horses. So you would enter if you were like a very skilled horse rider, and shooters like with the bow. Okay. So like, these three things already like tell us something, right? Horse riding, bow arrow shoot, bows and arrows, and the wrestling, it tells us something. Of course, these things were very important for the Manchus too. Okay, so these were like the manly sports. And what they could do. So inside the Shampuyin, they were divided into three categories. So three ranks: third, first, and second, and first. And their role beside wrestling was that of bodyguards, but not everybody could become a bodyguard. So they have to had whole specific, let's say, military ranks to then be able to become uh, bodyguards. But especially like bodyguards for the emperor. But we have a legend that talks about the establishment of the Shampooyin, which is, every legend has their, like, core of reality and truth. We're not sure about it, but it talks about um, the siege of Albai, which was like a general that was trying to, govern, um, or like rule, or instead of the young emperor. So the younger emperor decided to, have his skilled wrestlers with him, and then one day they just grabbed him, and he was like well known to be like a huge, great general and be able to fight everybody. So they were able to hold him down and, finally capture him. What this story tells us was that in the presence of the emperor, what you need is people skilled in grappling. Why? Because there is no way you can get close to the emperor, even if you are like a higher ranked general with a sword. There's no way. Even though like the role of Albai was almost that of, like, the emperor, because he was taking the decisions. He was like, the emperor was young, but like to be able to capture this person, hold him down, and then stop him, you needed grappling. So it
So
tells
cool.
us a few things. First of all, there were people practicing wrestling in that specific period of time, and this was used outside of a warring like of a war environment, and was used specifically in a everyday or like meeting or encounter, okay, to catch somebody. So yeah, they their role was okay. They could also become bodyguards, but their most important role, which to me is not that of being soldiers and being skilled in rest. Their role was to perform in very specific events during their year,
Hmm.
their wrestling. So these events were always held in front of the court, in front of the, like, the Guizu, the nobility. Can you say nobility?
Nobility, I guess. Yeah.
Nobility. And most importantly, they were performed when they had this big hunt. So the emperor would invite his, like, so the Qing Empire was a very diverse empire. They had Mongolians, they had Uyghurs, and the emperor knew that if you wanted to reign an empire like that, you need to talk with them in their same language. It means that if you want to have a relationship with the Mongols, you need to have to, wrestle and sit down and drink. So
When in Rome.
yes, exactly.
Exactly.
When you go to Rome, do as the Romans do, right?
Yeah.
And so the wrestling was a core part of this big hunt. After the hunt, they would sit down, drink, and listen to music and wrestle. And it's like, sport. What is sport in reality? What are the Olympics? Soft power. Okay.
That's very true.
So having strong wrestlers would mean, without going to war, showing, we can do stuff. Most of the times, the Mongolian wrestlers would win for a long period of time. It took the Shampooyin a long time to become very skilled. What the Manchus were amazing at, and what these hunts were meant for, was showing the power of the horse riders and the archers when they hunt. Because the way the Manchus used to hunt, well, of course, was borrowed from Mongolians, um, was information, and it was the same as hunting. So the way they hunt, it was the same as they go to war. So the emperor would, like, gather the prince of the Mongolian prince and the Uyghur prince for these huge hunts and show them, look what we can do. Okay, don't come to war with us. Okay,
Yeah.
just that's what we can do.
Very cool.
So these Shampooyin guys were wrestlers, archers, and horse riders, and entertainers. And a way of doing soft politics, soft power, and politics during the Qing dynasty.
So interesting, yeah. And then I think one of the greatest questions or misinterpretations about Shuai Jiao is a lot of people don't understand that it's an extremely old martial art and compared to a lot of modern martial arts. So I would have to ask you this. When Shuai Jiao met judo in 1939,
Yes.
what were the biggest technical shocks for both sides? Because there are a lot of similarities, and a lot of times I will show like Shuai Jiao on my channel, and people are like, oh, they're just doing judo. I'm like, man, they were doing that hundreds of years prior, you know?
Great question. Technique-wise, so let's start like this. Shuai Jiao has not, we established Shuai Jiao is not 5,000 years old. Nothing in this world is 5,000 years old. Okay? We can say that it has around, since the Shampuyin to today, let's talk about it like this, okay? Because it evolved. Shuai Jiao is evolving right now. We are seeing it. The people here, we are seeing it, okay? Like judo is evolving. It's around 4 to 500 years. When they met judo, was the shock big? Yes. It was big not because they were so different. I think, look, I really, really believe that early judo was very, very close to Shuai Jiao.
Yeah.
Was very close for a lot of reasons. The jacket. Very, like that period, the judo still had very short jackets. Like Shuai Jiao right now, we have jackets that are like here, okay? So, sorry, I'm like in my on my couch. So a Shuai Jiao jacket would not come lower than this.
Okay.
Okay. Judo older jackets, you see them like from here to here, you know, but you never see like the long sleeve right now, and that changes a lot. Okay, so we know for a fact that when judo met Shuai Jiao during like, you know, when Ujishima came to China and during the Japanese occupation, he invited the wrestlers from China to train with him every week. And he said we would use Chinese rules because judo already, you know, had like ground game developed. And Shuai Jiao never had. And Shuai Jiao, of course, wrestles with boots, you know, with wrestling shoes, which back then were shoes. So technically what happens, we don't know. We know a little bit of stories. We know for a fact that Ushijima refused to wear shoes. Like we know that he was like, doesn't matter whether he was like training, he was training barefoot. He was wrestling barefoot. But he was wrestling with the Chinese jacket. And I have a few pictures in my Instagram. What happens? What the exchange were, like we know that Ushijima was super dominant. Like he threw everybody. And then he in his like diary, there's a few letters back in Japan where he talks very well of a few wrestlers, about Shanli and others. But he was like, even here, right now people still remember him as like very, very strong. Technically, what happened and what were the exchanges, what are the influence, I don't know, and I don't think you can know for sure. But I believe the similarity in the jacket, like, you know, were the bridge between judo and Shuai Jiao. When people say today, "Oh, look, Shuai Jiao is just judo," there's a few things to say. There's only like that number of ways to throw a person while standing. Like you're not gonna invent like a throw from the nose, okay? It's impossible. The jacket is the main difference. So what is peculiar of Shuai Jiao? Shuai Jiao is the jacket. and how tight it is, how thick it is. A Shuai Jiao competition jacket is 1,500 grams, like thick, Um, and we can right now there's new regulations. I don't want to go into that because I also don't like them. But we can make it like the jacket tighter, and the jacket is very tight. There's no slack in the jacket, and even less in right now in a Mongolian wrestling jacket. So everything that is you want to know about Shuai Jiao, you have to know about the grips. So the main difference is there, and I believe, of course, there have been exchanges, but for sure what happened and what these like exchanges were, I'm not sure. But if somebody says Shuai Jiao is judo, I always say they're very similar. Judo is amazing. I'm very fascinated by the research that the judo like coaches put into kuzushi and the single techniques, and amazing. And I think Shuai Jiao should learn from that. But the difference is in the jacket. And all the judo people that came and tried Shuai Jiao, they're like, oh, this is not the same. It's like, it's different ways of throwing somebody, because they have a different jacket.
For sure. I found, for example, what my observation was is like, let's take Ssireum, for example. Ssireum has maintained a strong festival and folk identity, okay, in Korea, while Shuai Jiao became more institutionalized in China. Is it because Shuai Jiao had a bit of more of a military relation and compared to, for example, Ssireum or a lot of the other arts?
I don't know what you mean by Ssireum became more like it's more folk, because Ssireum
Festival,
right
like
now.
the
Go.
Oh, basically, what I notice is, like, for example, in Bokh wrestling, you have a Nadam festival, right? In Ssireum, you have incredible amounts of nationally televised competitions. This is what I meant. I meant more. It's like more national there. When it became in China, it still kind of has, from what I see, and I'm not there, of course. This is why I'm asking you. It seems to be more institutionalized. Like basically, it's controlled and it's not as public out there in the festival atmosphere.
Okay, so Shuai Jiao was a core part of a lot of festivals during the dynasty, during the Qing dynasty. So you have this exhibition during the year at court during like specific days of like the lunar calendar, and most of the times you still have it in the local areas here, like some little competitions for specific festivities. What so folk wrestling is always related to festivals, but you're saying Shuai Jiao is more, got more into like some sort of like controlled by the government. I mean, because it's a sport, and it's China, so you can't really do anything by yourself in China. So you need to have it needs to have an organization. It needs to be controlled by the government, and Shuai Jiao like falls on like under. It doesn't even fall under the sport committee. It falls under the minority events and like folk things. So it's a little bit more complicated. So it's because Shuai Jiao, after like the evolution phases of Shuai Jiao, I would call it uh the dynastic period, the Mingguo period, until I would say, yeah, until the revolution. After the revolution, and then after '94, which is when Shuai Jiao kind of what got kicked out of the sports, like a national sport event. So it's because it's a sport, so you need to have it regulated by the government, and it's not that popular in festivals anymore here. It's because, first of all, it belongs to the north. It's a very northern, I'll make you an example. Ssireum, it's very popular in southern Korea, in the South Korea, but in the southern regions, less in the north, because it's related to the sand, to the sea, And for this reason, Shuai Jiao is more connected to the north of China. So it's not that like it's practiced everywhere and traditionally. So you have a few cities: Beijing, Tianjin, Baoding, and then Jinan, and then Inner Mongolia, which these are the areas where it developed. So it's not super popular everywhere, and also it's a sport, and it's a sport that is not part of the Olympics. So it's you need to understand Chinese culture to understand what I'm about to say. But
Mm-hmm.
being an athlete in China is not good. Your parents don't want you to be like an athlete. Your parents want you to be a doctor, wants you to be a teacher, wants you to study. So um, in Chinese, there's a thing that says "idong bru jin." So a movement is not as the same as staying quiet and being mindful. Sport, it's not. I don't want to say it's not a good thing, but it's not what you wish for your kids. Okay, so it's not like it's not part of the Chinese culture in the sense that it doesn't have a very high value inside Chinese culture.
Okay.
So right now it's the oldest martial arts movie, and everybody knows about Chinese kung fu and everything. But those that practiced martial arts for real in the Qing Dynasty and before, they were like the lower of the lowest, the thieves, or like those that could not do anything but just throwing fists. So that's also the reason why. And it's still right now, like if you are a sports student or like a professional athlete in China, it's very likely that you come from a very poor family and then you had like the chance of, having a better like life thanks to, sports schools and everything. So the answer to this is Shuai Jiao is less, it stayed less in the culture because it doesn't belong to the whole China. It's very specific to certain parts, so the north and these cities, and it's also because you don't want your kids to do wrestling. What's wrestling? Your kids should go and like study. That's what it. Instead, like you make a comparison with the Mongolians, becoming a great wrestlers. It's it's a waste upon every kid. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's my answer.
Very interesting. We're going to move now to technical and training methodology. So, from what I researched, you train under Master Li Deshun.
Okay, I started with leadership. Yes.
What is one training secret or drill from the Beijing style that most Western grapplers would find bizarre or difficult?
Oh, okay. So I train with Leader School, and now I train with another coach, which I train under and whatever. So this is interesting. I think Beijing style focuses a lot on drilling, and drilling not with a partner, drilling single person drills. Okay, so single movements by yourself. What in boxing is called shadow boxing. I don't know if it's called shadow wrestling in folk style. Maybe you do it sometimes. It's like
Yeah, it could be stance and motion or shadow wrestling as well. So that's
stance, motion, and shadow wrestling.
yeah,
Exactly.
stance and motion. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the core of Beijing style. And we have a bunch of different training tools. Like we have like stakes, and we have kind of barbells. We have like barbells to throw. But I think foreigners would come and start learning Shuai Jiao and be like, why the heck am I doing all these like single person drills? And I think that if you're an adult, you should do them, but less. Those things are most meant, to my experience, if like we look at it from a critical standpoint, those are things that should be taught to kids to develop basic skill pattern movement, and then give them a way of becoming more nimble and be able to move in position that you would have to go through when you wrestle.
Very, very interesting. What I saw in Shuai Jiao, what I knew is Shuai Jiao is very famous for practicing the entry a lot, like 20 times for every one throw. why is the, and I think it's a great thing, by the way, but why do you think the entry is prioritized so heavily over the finish?
in Shuai Jiao?
Yeah.
Well, it's because, so it depends also on the coach. Okay. How many times you try to do the entry, and but it's because, so Shuai Jiao, you can only stand on your feet. Everything that is not your feet that touches the ground scores a point for your opponent. So let's say I'm doing like let's use a judo term, seonege, okay, and I'm going on my knees, even if my, like, let's say even if one of my knees touches the ground, but I do a beautiful seonege, I'm losing a point. I cannot do it. Like, that throw is not scored to me, it's scored to him. Okay. So being in a very specific position allows me to still stand. Okay. When I finish the technique. So I want him to touch first. Okay. So I want to throw, and my opponent should go down first before me. Okay. If then I follow, okay, right now it's like right now it's scored like 1 point. Right now the score is only 3 points, clean technique, which means that I finish the throw and I stand. I'm on my feet. 3 point, big throw, 3 point. If I throw and then let's say I do Sarnage, I throw and then I go on top of him, I fall 2, 1 point.
Okay, got you.
Okay, so that's why you need perfect position.
Okay, makes sense. So, are there biomechanical differences between a Beijing style throw and a Baoding style throw?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I think it's the same as you would have in judo. Like, you would have one technique, and this technique being thought by 10 coaches 10 different ways. And not just like in Shuai Jiao, in judo, like a lot, I think it's a lot of styles. So you have a few sayings that goes to, Beijing 有子，天津嘴子，保定够子, which means that, the wrestlers from Beijing are more nimble and they're hard to catch. Um, Baoding, they're good with their mouth, which means 天津嘴子. So the guys from Tianjin, they're good with their mouth because, like, they talk shit. It just comes from like a way of like doing wrestling performance. It's like the same as like imagine, which is the same. It's very similar in sumo. So imagine like a stand-up comedy where I kind of like talk shit at you and then I throw you and we throw each other. It's kind of like that. And Baoding Goza, which is like a kind of Uchimata. Which is a saying, but it's not true. It's just like, a funny thing that came with the time, and a lot of people still say it, but it's not actually true. Like, wrestlers, they don't know it's not true. But there are differences in the way some techniques are executed. For example, let's talk about how's it called in Japanese? I think it's also present in judo, by the way. It's called I don't remember. In Chinese, it's called qianbie, which is it's you basically extend your front leg and then you throw
Like a Taitoshi?
Tayotoshi, exactly.
Okay.
So a more like a traditional way would be having your legs stiff front. Whether right now, thanks to some evolution and other things, you would want to go very deep and use your knee to bump your opponent, and the way you position your hands is very interesting. So the traditional way would just go down like this, or Beijing, and right now what you want to do is, because your grip is like this, okay, so you have the sleeve and you have the lapel, so you want to kind of prop it up and then throw it this way. So kind of like hold him in like this. You drop very, very low, and the kuzushi is already here, so he's already like tilted forward, and then you pop the knee and then you go down.
And you'd get more amplitude on the throw too. It would be much higher.
Yes. Yeah. So it depends on the coach. It depends what you're doing.
Very good.
Um, it's different in the way you approach a few things. But right now, if we are talking about high level competitive right now, is uh, the coaches, they all know each other, and I wouldn't say there's big differences. We can say that, for example, Mongolians are super good, like Mongolians in China. They're super good with tripping their feet. They're crazy. It's insane. They you know, you don't even like realize when you're like falling. Okay. Instead, other places they prefer bigger throws, or they're less good with their feet. They're better with their grips. I would say the comparison is they're better with the grips on the jacket and less with the feet. Not that Mongolians are not good with the grips. Okay, they have different styles of grips. They like, are more influenced from their kind of way of doing Bokh. Um, but yeah, specifically, it's very hard to say.
It's really interesting. Obviously, Shuai Jiao doesn't outground grappling, and
Yes.
grappling is, of course, huge nowadays. Ever since the UFC, etc., especially internationally. But in my opinion, I think this makes the standing clinch for Shuai Jiao much more sophisticated than in BJJ Judo because you don't have that element. Would you agree?
First things first. I'm not an expert in neither BJJ nor judo. Okay. Um, I don't want to say it's more developed. I wouldn't. I want to say it's very important, and there's a lot of research into that. I believe there's so much to learn from both,
Mhm.
but the jacket in Shuai Jiao is so different that we need to be able to use it very specifically. So grips are number one. Like if you don't have a grip, it's very very hard. So we really put a lot of emphasis into getting the right grip, getting the grip in a certain specific position, not letting your opponent getting a grip. We don't never want to fight from what is in Chinese is called siba, which means like a dead grip. What is a dead grip? Is like I am gripping you, you're gripping me. Okay, and
Mhm.
this is what happens. I think in a lot of BJJ most of the times.
Yeah.
I grip you, you grip me, and we do like this, which is
It creates passivity.
yeah. There's no passivity that much in Shuai Jiao, but
Yeah.
you can't move him. Like if I grip you and you grip me and I
Yeah.
stiff arm you like this, there's no movement.
No.
So I really control you. In Shuai Jiao, because it's very tight, you can do a lot of things with your jacket. I can like even like you have a grip here. I can use my shoulder to pop your grip. I can use shoulder and hands. I can even use like put certain joint locks on you
Yeah.
with my jacket, which are not allowed. But if nobody sees it, whatever.
Which was my next question, actually. Uh, for the audience, the Chinese art of joint locking, and pardon me if I get the pronunciation wrong, is China. So
China.
could
Yeah.
you explain the concept of China, which is joint locking, within the flow of a wrestling exchange? If you've seen it in Shuaijiao there.
So this term China means to take and control, or like it's in not right now in Chinese martial arts. It's just means joint locks. Are they allowed in Shuai Jiao competition? They're not allowed. Um, can you do them while they wrestle? Yes. And I think every wrestler would tell you, even freestyle, I can joint lock you when I do certain things,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
not do it like very, very
What
evidently.
what the referee doesn't see doesn't happen,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Unfortunately.
Exactly. So there's ways that you can do one of the most used ones, okay? And one that everybody can do, and it's the easiest one, is like somebody grabs you, let's say here, or
Mhm.
normally we say here, but even like outside here,
On the outside shoulder,
you circle,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Very easy, you circle, and then you like do a lock. Of course, if you're a partner, if you're doing in competition, not in competition with your partner, you do it here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that much. If you can do it here. Okay. So and we normally do it like this. I have my sleeve grip. He has mine. I'm gonna join lock. As soon as I have him, he's gonna release. So I use the release, and then I push him to then drag him again. So it's
Okay.
gonna be 1, 2, and then pull.
Yeah. So you're using it to create also, if not the joint lock, to create the throw, the entrance into
Yes.
the row.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
A lot of the times, even like I make an example. Okay, one that I use every time. It's not a joint lock, but it is a joint lock. It's my favorite way to get rid of this grip. So my opponent has a grip here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On
So
the
what I
inside,
do
okay?
inside, outside. Normally in Shuai Jiao, you want to always be inside
Mm-hmm.
because this is a dominant position.
Okay.
Okay. Here you're not dominating anything. But if you're here, you pushed me, you pull, like it's inside. So let's say you're here. Okay. I put my thumb down on your wrist,
Mm-hmm.
elbow up. Okay. And I twist up. I twist up. I move my elbow right under you,
Oh yeah.
and with my tricep, I push you away. So basically, what
Yeah.
happens is you're so uncomfortable that I'm either gonna break your wrist or you're gonna let go. Very, very
Hmm.
few people can like withstand this kind of twist,
Sure.
and it's legal. But I'm using your grip and my jacket to join lock you here and then push you out.
Brilliant. You know, I noticed on your Instagram that you do a lot of strength training. Now, I wanted to
Yes.
ask, how do traditional strength tools, I think one of them is called the Swa stone padlocks, if you know what they are, develop a different kind of power than modern kettlebells?
是说, so I might be very controversial here.
It's good. Different is always good, so.
Well, I think I'm more modern than so. The basics of sport performance is, and sport performance is like a more modern thing. So if you're not trained, you didn't study or anything, you would think, well, I do the movement that I do in wrestling, I do it loaded up, and I become stronger. No, that's not how it works. So, so it's good to do these movements with some like different tools. It gives you more awareness. It helps you with sensitivity. So maybe sometimes, doing kind of throws with other things that we have in right now, like, you know, like barbells to throw or like the bell cracking, it helps. But it doesn't give you a big transfer. Okay.
Okay.
In my opinion, strength training is you become strong you become very strong in general movements, mainly push, pull, deadlift, squat, and bench, and then you transfer that in your own training. But talking about Shuswa, you do something that I think all the other things don't do, which is it trains your grip, and it trains
Oh
it
yeah.
a lot. So Chinese Shuswa are different from kettlebells. For what reason? So kettlebells, they're round, of
Hmm.
course, so they swing more. Um, but their handle is a little bit smaller. Chinese 实锁 tend to be, so there's different kinds. So there's strength 实锁 and then their performance, which they just throw and then you do a bunch of like flowery drills and they're very tiny. But most of the times, 实锁, the one you're talking about, the big ones, their grip is like this
Ooh,
thick. Okay.
that's very yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. So even just like being able to swing something like that and catch it, even if
Yeah.
it's not like, as I said, a general movement like squat, bench, and deadlift, your grip is gonna become crazy just from
Crazy
that.
for sure.
Yeah. So I would say that's a
Okay.
yes for me, but other things it depends what you're doing, how much time you have.
So we're going to go now into by the way, what you said about just go back. What you said about the shuswa is interesting. It's the equivalent of doing pull-ups on a thin bar or a very thick bar. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's much harder on the thick bar. Of course, each one has an adaptive crossover into what you want, but I get what you're saying, and that's interesting. So you're really educated. I can tell you by the way you're speaking as well too. Now you
Thanks.
moved to Beijing for your master's degree, from what I understand. What was the hardest part about being an outsider trying to enter the traditional Chinese wrestling community? Was it hard, did you find?
So I came to China the first time in 2014. And back then I was still doing my bachelor degree. And I did a back and forth and then moved completely for my master's. Was it easy? No. It depends, because it depends what you want to do. Okay? So you want to be the foreigner that comes and trains a little bit, and everybody, oh, it's a foreigner, and let's have fun with him. But they always like trash you, and that's something. But if you want to, like, try to be good, and first of all, I speak Chinese. I'm not like, I come here, I don't speak at all. Like, I'm the guest every time. And like, there's like Manu coming, let's take him to no. So I train with them. I speak with them, and I became with time part. Is it hard? It's crazy hard. They're not, most of the time, especially like ethnically Chinese guys, they are not welcoming a lot of times. Like, I tell you, like, one time, okay? Because my time with the Shuangxiong in Beijing with my first coach, and it was weird because I went from learning with him to basically leading the training, the warm up and the drills. I was not leading the fighting, but I was leading half of the training by the end. It was weird, and I'll tell you this time. One of at the beginning, I was wrestling with this guy, and it just like could not get like break my grip. Okay, at a certain point, he just stopped wrestling, and he just slapped me in the face like this, super hard, and like very loud, like, like.
Crazy.
And I was like, "The fuck is going on?" And then nobody said anything. I was like, "All right, I'm gonna, that's the game. I'm gonna like go, like retard strength." I just like slammed him as hard as I could on the ground. After that, amazing friends. But that's not, I didn't feel really welcome in the beginning.
Man,
So
I love it.
it's hard.
So, do you, having studied the philosophy of wrestling and also being a philosophy student and
Yeah.
master's in philosophy, did it change the way you view physical conflict while being there? Which obviously we just spoke about with the retard strength and everything, but it's quite interesting, you know?
um, did it influence my way? I think it influences a lot my normal life. My my trainings, I think my trainings help me understand myself outside my normal life. So I don't think it had a straight transfer to my wrestling, but I would say it helped me use my wrestling to understand myself.
Okay. I think it's just so interesting, man, because you speak Chinese. Also, for the audience, Emanuele is from Italy, so he also speaks Italian,
Yeah.
English, I'm sure some other languages too. I wouldn't be
No,
surprised.
just three. Yeah.
Do you, if you would have to describe the soul of Shuai Jiao in a single philosophical concept, what would it be?
So if we want to philosophical concept, what is philosophical? Um, if I want to stay very close to the technique, I would say, well, philosophical. I would say, I'm not sure if that can be philosophical, but I would say grips, always grips. And I don't know if that is philosophical. I don't,
Well,
but
it could be, right? Because then they teach us one that before any action, make sure you're well grounded and really prepared, right? I would think, but then again, I'm not the philosophy master's
for
degree.
sure, like I think a lot of the time we overcomplicated philosophy. So we
Yeah.
think about these big things and complex thinking. But I think, why is it grip? I would say because to wrestle somebody, you need to be connected with him. If this link is gone, then you can't wrestle him.
Okay.
And if we want to make it a little broader, I think to describe everybody that wrestles is passion. All these people.
Yeah.
So let's say among the people that wrestle all over the world, how many can live off it? Very little. Then why everybody else does it? Just because they love it. There's some passion. Like my coach right now is like, he established again the Beijing team. He's spending money from his own pocket that is not really like getting banned just to have professional team in Beijing and giving these kids a way to learn and be professionals in Shuai Jiao without any support from like the government, from universities. He's doing it by himself. So I think wrestling kind of like brings out people's dream. Like we won't be ourselves without it, I think.
I would actually have to agree with you. You know, I think wrestling for me, philosophically, if someone would, I think it brings us the closest to our human nature. It's inside us genetically. It doesn't matter if you're the richest man on earth or the poorest man on earth on the mat. It doesn't matter. Also, you can really understand who a person is when you wrestle. Are they overly aggressive? Are they thinking? Do they counter? So all
Yeah.
this kind of, I would imagine you have that. Now you have a quite interesting, by the way, guys, I mean, like I said before, Emmanuel has got an amazing Instagram page, but he's also got a website that goes kind of deep dives into his experiences there. And it's quite actually interesting and eye-opening what he writes. What would you say is the most surprising discovery in your Shun Puying Chronicle? I know I'm ruining it, the pronunciation, research so far that you've done. Like, what is something you said, okay, this is really interesting?
Well, first of all, something that from my perspective, okay, let's not talk about the value and everything.
Hmm.
For me, it's finding things. I make an example. I have so much material that I don't have the time to work on, or like that I know where it is, but I can't go get it. So my favorite discovery was, um, what's this? I'll show you right now for the first time. I never posted. You want to see it? Give
Sure.
me a second, okay? I'm gonna get it because it's
No
not on my
problem.
website. It's my next thing.
And I'll continue with explaining about your site. So, guys, while Emanuele goes to get this, Emanuele is what's interesting is that he's one of the few guys I've seen who actually has an amazing, I guess, lens of look into what's happening in Chinese Shuai Jiao. And from what I've seen as a grappler, a wrestler, and I'm not a great wrestler, I'm a good wrestler, is that it's lightning fast. There's a lot to learn there, and it might be a great tool to put in for your grappling performance because of the tight jacket, etc., and the rule set. But here's Emmanuel, and let's see this.
Okay, so I am also a collector. I collect old wrestling pictures. I collect sumo pictures. I collect sumo tegatas. I collect everything that is related and it has historical value. So sometimes I buy things,
Mhm.
and sometimes I buy things that I don't really know what they are. And I came across a few manuscripts. Okay. And one time I was like, I saw this and I was like, there was this manuscript that I came across. And I didn't know how big it was. And the guy was like, "Oh, that's the prize from some old guy here in Beijing." And what people do most of the time is that, unfortunately, a lot of the things it's in the hand of old people, and maybe they die, their family don't know anything about it, and either they throw it away or somebody comes collect it, and I don't know. But it's unfortunate. So I came across this manuscript. I bought it, and it came to me completely destroyed. It was like if I opened it, it would break, like, and I couldn't. I was like, I don't even want to open it because like it was written by hand and the pages were kind of old and the cover was completely broken. So I was like, okay, I can't do anything. I'm just gonna find somebody to fix this book,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm gonna think about it later. And while he was fixing the book, I took a few pictures, and I realized, okay, I think I know what it is. So in Shuai Jiao, there have been for Shuai Jiao there have been a few books published before, and one of the older ones, and maybe the first, the most comprehensive book that was published in Chinese, of course, you're talking about. It's a book called 中国脚术, so the Chinese wrestling art, which was written by two people together. One was Man Baozhen, okay, which is the old coach here, which according to what like the story says is like he was talking and the other guy was writing it. So what I came across is so the other guy is whatever. I'll show you. So it came to me completely destroyed, and I figured with time that this is the handwritten, like a book before it was published. So these are a lot. It's imagine two people training for the whole life and writing down their notes, and then turning it into a book.
Wow.
Okay, and I came across the first manuscript, and then I got it, and so it came to me completely destroyed, and this was on the front, in the front page, okay, which reads, you can see here, it says 蛮族七人, which means a Manchu banner person. This is the author, okay. His surname is Fu, okay. And then you have Chinese style. Here it's still written with their own name, Guangjiao, okay. So wrestling, Pu, which means like it's a manuscript, okay. So you can see here, this was like sticked on top at the very beginning, and right now this is like I had it like,
Wow.
have a leather cover, like everything, because like
Beautiful.
now I can look at it. So, and it's divided in chapters. You see,
Yeah.
it says 中国式管教水, Chinese style wrestling. I'll show you a few things from here so that you can understand why I was super pumped. So this is all handwritten.
Oh my God.
And I'll show you a few things. This is also like written pretty well. So this is the original front page, which the guy had, like, he
Wow.
detached it and then put it into a slightly thicker page. But everything else is written super tiny and super thin in this like
Wow.
paper, very, very thin paper.
This is a piece of history right here.
Yeah, it's like when I came across it, I was like, wow, and I couldn't even open it because it was completely broken. I just saw a few things, but I'll show you the most exciting things. So as you see, the pages are super thin.
Wow.
And I'll show you something nice.
So basically, this is you refurbished the book.
Yes.
Wow, that's great, man.
So I found somebody to do it for me because I wouldn't have
Okay.
been able to do it.
And I'd imagine in China you'd find someone good there too, because it looks very perfect. It almost looks like a Bible in a way.
I found a guy. I found a guy on the Chinese Xiaoshu, which is like Chinese Instagram, And he did it for me. And he's like an amateur. He does it for fun. He didn't make me pay. I only paid for the materials.
Hmm.
And it's amazing. And I have the videos of him doing it.
Oh,
So I have a
wow.
time lapse and everything. I'll show you a few
Very
things that are
cool.
interesting.
So if you guys aren't watching but listening, basically this is almost like a wow, that is so cool. There's like diagrams of someone doing moves, but
Moves
it's
with this is like a dabang, so the big stick.
very cool. And those would be exercise moves, right?
Yes, exercises like solo drills, the one I was telling
Yeah.
you about earlier. I'll show you something nice.
Oh, here we go. Oh, wow.
It's a wrestling move,
Yeah, for
which is
sure.
called 手脚别,手脚别子. So which means to separate with your foot and the hand.
Okay. And then he's going to use that lower hand to block the hip as well, and then he's going to turn him over.
So basically, this is when you do 手别, which is a movement where you pull and you block with the hand.
Yes.
You block the knee,
Okay,
your
exactly. Yeah.
opponent,
In
and
wrestling,
you
we have
use
it
the
too. Yeah.
shoulder as the fulcrum to throw him.
Like a knee
When
tap, but reverse side.
yes, but when that doesn't work, what do? You step with your foot outside, so it becomes like kind of like a tayotoshi or something with the hand.
Great.
Yeah, so I think
That's
what's the
phenomenal.
most exciting thing? I think this was very exciting.
I definitely think so too. Oh, wow. Okay, here's another one. It's actually, how old is that?
So this is from the 60s. Yeah, but I don't really exactly know when they compiled it because it might be like a little bit before.
Hmm. That's very cool, man.
Show you another one.
Is it just Shuai Jiao? Do you also have inner Mongolian wrestling in there too?
No, only Shuai Jiao. In here, only Shuai Jiao.
Oh, interesting, huh? For a 60s book, it's really documented quite well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and it's cool. It's. I think this was probably the most exciting thing I found last year, or no, this year.
Definitely as an anthropologist, for sure, as well.
Oh, I was like, oh wow. Yeah. So that's where my money goes.
So I have another section I want to ask you. It's very quick.
Sure.
So I'm going to give you 10 quick fire questions. You're going to get two options. You don't need to think, just give your gut answer. Okay. And
Okay.
it's not, so it's not
Yeah.
going to be like, do you like Szechuan beef or, because that's what I would ask probably as a wrestler. But okay. So Chiba, which is the jacket, or the Satba, which is the belt?
Oh, for me,
Yeah.
it's a belt.
Okay. Beijing style or Baoding style?
Beijing.
Okay. The grasslands or the training hall?
For me, because I did it more the training hall, but the grassland have their fashion. Like it's very amazing.
Here's a good one. A perfect throw or a perfect counter?
Oh, a perfect counter.
So I'm the same, man. I'm a counter wrestler, so that's why. Leather boots or wrestling shoes? Oh,
Which is more comfortable.
which one do you prefer?
Because I use them more. Wrestling shoes.
Me too, me too. Leg trips or hip tosses?
Hip tosses.
Historical research or live sparring?
Ah,
That's a tough one. Huh?
live sparring because I can only do it for so many years. It's very funny to stop.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I can't do it anymore, so just enjoy as much as you can. That's what I'm gonna say.
Exactly.
Inner Mongolia or outer Mongolia?
I've never been to Outer Mongolia.
Okay,
Inner
so we'll put
Mongolia.
the eagle dance or the winner's bow or bow.
I mean, in Chinese, we have to bow a little bit, but it's because of other things. Let's say because it's cooler. Eagle dance.
Yeah, I think the eagle dance has got to be like the day I see a UFC fighter at the end of a fight do the eagle dance, I'm done, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that
yeah.
you can't get. Okay, now here's the last question. Ready? The hardest training partner, a Mongol or a Manchu?
A Chinese guy. A
So
Chinese guy.
Manchu. Yeah. Now,
It's
we're
because Mongols they're more gentle when they train.
I think
They,
it's
they,
maybe. Yeah, I heard that actually, which is a really interesting thing. A lot of people think that they wouldn't be, but I found that that any Mongolian that I mean, I've only wrestled a few. They were very strong, they were tough, but there was a culture of respect. Like I think it's also like to them, like you said, the highest form of uh, social positioning would be to win the Naadam festival. So there's some like yeah, I would have to agree. Emanuele, so we're pretty much finished for today, but I want to ask you, what do you want to tell our audience? How can they find you? What do you have going on, etc.?
oh, you can find me on my Instagram. I don't do much. I don't have a YouTube channel. I do my things on Instagram. I try to, show people that there's also some grappling here in China going on, and I would like everybody to know a little bit more about Shuai Jiao, what I have going on in the future. This year, I'm planning the second international training camp here in Beijing. So if you want to come and try to have a full week with the professional team for Shuai Jiao, you can contact me, and then I'm gonna have everything, all the advertisement on my Instagram. It's gonna be a week, and then it's gonna be food, training, everything is like provided. And another thing I'm gonna start to work on is finally, I'm a little like superstitious if I say and I don't do it. It's a book or maybe two books
Mhm.
about Shuai Jiao, and hopefully gonna come out sometime. I don't know, next year or maybe the next one.
I have no doubt those will be great with your knowledge and your experience and your education. Now, guys, I just want to say I'm going to put everything in the description of how to find Emmanuel and any information. Feel free to contact him and honestly join his Instagram page. I'm really enjoying it. Check out his site. I'm also really enjoying that. So if you want to really learn about Shuai Jiao as well as see a really cool Instagram page, I totally recommend that. And also, if you could like and subscribe, that would be amazing and help me. And also, I'm going to put a link to a Grapplezilla Shuai Jiao t-shirt we have if you want to have.
Awesome.
And Emanuele, it's really been an honor. You're an awesome guy, and your knowledge and experience is totally awesome. So until next time, guys, grab, throw, tap.
Yeah. Had a great time.